What's up? My name is Wes, and I'm a commercial photographer based out of Phoenix, Arizona. All my life, I wanted to be a photographer. I remember the first time I picked up a National Geographic magazine, I seen a picture of a young lady wearing nothing but a grass skirt. And I was mesmerized by everything about that picture. That was the first time the saying, "A picture's worth 1,000 words," applied to me. I didn't really know what was going on and how I was going to do it, but I wanted to be a part of that lifestyle. I wanted to bring that feeling to everybody else, and that's why I became a photographer. Being that I grew up in an area that photography wasn't the biggest thing and the most important thing on the roster, I didn't really start until I was later on in my life. I was 30 years old when I became a photographer, and it happened after I was burnt out of working as a chef, and I went down a street called Mill Ave out here in Phoenix, Arizona. Actually, it's in Tempe, and I was taking pictures with a random camera that I bought from a pawn shop, and I put them up on Facebook, and one of the people that were looking at the pictures just so happened to say, "Wow, Wes, you're a great photographer." And that's when the bug finally really hit me, and I needed to do nothing but photography. I was interested in nothing else because that was where I was passionate at. The one thing I wish I knew when I first started photography is that you must pay attention to your marketing and your business strategy just as much as you pay attention to honing your craft. When I first started, I really thought that all I needed to do was be the best photographer. And I was dead wrong on that. I went to a seminar. I'm not going to mention the lady's name, but she worked for National Geographic. And her words to me exactly after seeing my portfolio, she said, "Wes, you're a good photographer, but I'm a better business person than you. You have to work on your craft as a business person just as much as you do as a photographer." Those words resonated in my head for years, and I really didn't get the point until about maybe a year and a half ago. So now my business sense is just as important as my photography skills are. How I got good at photography was just using my imagination. You know, I was inspired by Jimi Hendrix. A lot of painters like Rembrandt was one of my inspirations. Pablo Picasso, Nirvana, the Black Panther Party. I get most of my inspiration from grunge rock. You know, that's kind of where it started at for me. The gear that I use, the bodies are always Canon. It will always be that way. I'll never use anything else. I've always been a fan of Canon. When I first started photography, my dad gave me a camera called Minolta. I don't even think they're in business anymore, but I had that camera for probably about 6 months before I bought another camera, which was a Canon, and it was a 1V, and that was a film camera, but at the time it was like the most advanced camera there was, and I had that and I loved it. I absolutely loved that camera. The shape of the body, how big it was. It had a grip on there that most cameras nowadays don't have. You got to kind of buy the battery grip separately from the camera, and I love the 1V for that, and I've been hooked ever since. Lenses has always been Sigma, and I'm really waiting for Sigma to come out with a lens that is for the new RF mount on the Canons, and I'm going to continue on with that. As far as lighting's concerned, I was a pro photo guy, but I bought a whole kit, which cost me around $5,000. And the sad part about it is, as I was leaving the place that I bought it from, I went back into the camera store and came out, and someone broke into my car and took all the gear. And it was only 2 lights in the battery pack, and I was heartbroken. So what I did, I looked for a cheap but efficient replacement, which was a Godox, and now I use Godox, and I'm completely satisfied with the quality that Godox gives me. And actually, this is being filmed right there with the Godox continuous light, and I love them. I have 4 or 5 different studio lights, and I have the continuous light that I use on a consistent basis for my workflow. Other than the camera and the flashes, what I like to bring is my DJI Mavic Mini 2. And the reason why I bring that, it just gives that wow factor, because taking pictures from an aerial vantage point always gives the cream on top of the coffee with the clients that I have. They absolutely love it. You know, out of all the gear that I've ever purchased, one thing that I kind of regret purchasing is the 14 mil Sigma Art lens. And the reason why, not because it's a bad lens, is because I rarely use it. I've been having it for 2 years, and I probably pull it out my camera bag about 5 or 6 times and use it commercially maybe once. So yeah, if I had to take any purchase back, would definitely be that lens. The tools that I use for post-processing are run-of-the-mill. I use Photoshop and Lightroom, probably the same thing like most photographers. But one thing that I do use that I need every time is music by these two guys. One is Marquette King, and the other one is this guy right here, Kendrick Lamar. Both of them are very inspirational to me. I happen to know Marquette King, and the song that he made called Happiness is probably one of the best songs I've ever heard as far as freeing yourself and liberating your mind in this day and age. My two favorite photos are these right here. This one right here is of a girl named Nye. She's a model, and she also lives in Arizona. And after I took that photo, I just fell in love with it to the point to where I had to take a break and kind of marvel at the photo for a while. And if someone was to probably go through my arsenal of photos, they would probably see something else that is a lot more grand in their opinion, but it's the thought and the feeling behind this photo, why I like it so much. And the second one right here is of my son Ermaeus. Unfortunately, Ermaeus is no longer with us. And November 22nd, 2019, his mother took his life. And the reason why I like the photo so much, because it was the first photo of him. And it was a day that I fell in love with my boy. The people's work that I'm most influenced by, there's a lot of photographers, but there is definitely a top 5 and one, and I'm not naming them in like order or anything like that. These are the ones that just come to mind. Peter McKinnon, not for his photography too much, but mostly for his lifestyle behind the photography. He's doing what every photographer wants to do, living his dream and doing exactly what he wants to do, creating and just being just an all-around badass. Lindsay Adler for her work between 2015 to 2020. Those 5 years, Lindsay inspired me in so many different ways. Laura Jade, and I really don't have a spew about her. I mean, just look at her work. It's absolutely amazing. Flo Gala, I think it is, Nagala. That is an absolute beautiful, like physically, mentally, and as far as her art's concerned, she's just a bad photographer, man. Just so good at what she does. I'm just a fan, you know. And last but not least is, I think his name is Kwaku Alston. I think I pronounced that right. He have shot with Obama before, and he's like the go-to photographer for black pop culture of nowadays. And if I could emulate anybody's lifestyle completely, it'll be a mixture of Kwaku and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, by the way, and Peter McKinnon. If I can just mesh those two together, that would definitely be my style. All in all, the reason why I got into photography is to escape the cliche lifestyle that people expect from the black community. I grew up in the areas where things were nasty all the time. I've seen death. I've seen people killed right in front of me. And I've also seen the beauty that the black community has to offer. And I just chose to emulate and follow the black beauty versus the destruction that's in that community. So I'm not a photographer because I think it's the only art form, because I'm an artist and I just so happen to choose this medium to kind of show showcase my life, to show who I am. And It's been a very interesting journey for me, and this is just the beginning, and there's a lot more to go. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. Let's get creative.